Welcome to another edition of Car Show Life here on NorthcentralPa.com. My name is Drake Donovan, and we're talking car shows. Car show season 2021, it's coming at some point. We've had a lot of delays so far in the first half of the year. Just breaking news in the last 24 hours, the Max Motive World of Wheels in Pittsburgh, which was originally slated to take place in February this year, got pushed back to March, is now been rescheduled for April 9th through the 10th at the David L. Lawrence Convention Center in Pittsburgh. And we at Car Show Life are very excited about that show because, as you can see over my shoulder, this shoulder, some of our show boards are going to be in that show. And so it'll be exciting to see our work on the convention floor in Pittsburgh if and when that show takes place. But they're saying April 9th through the 10th. But as we all know, things can change. As has happened with the Barrett-Jackson collector car auction, which is still scheduled to go off this month, March 20th through the 27th at Westworld of Scottsdale. This is the 50th anniversary event, which I had promised myself 5 years ago at their 45th that I would be attending this event. But again, COVID has made my plans for me. So last year in January, when this event was going on, I was having some serious FOMO as a buddy of mine from my Camaro club in Ohio attended with his cousin who was turning 50, and this was his bucket list. So when I knew they were going, I sent some Car Show Life swag to my buddy Eric and had him be my eyes and ears on the ground there in Westworld of Scottsdale for the 49th Barrett-Jackson collector car auction in Arizona. And we had originally planned this to be a blog article on carshowlife.net, but again, because of COVID, we weren't going to be talking about anything that wasn't going to be happening anytime soon. So we've already done this as a phone interview and blog article, but I decided we revisit it with the 50th anniversary event coming up and take in Eric's recollection and experience of being a first-time attendee at Barrett-Jackson. So I want to welcome to the show my buddy from the Northeast Ohio Camaro Club on the western edge of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Please welcome Beaver County's own Eric McFarland.
Hey, good to see you, man.
Good to see you too, buddy. So you got to go to Scottsdale last year. Your cousin was celebrating a big birthday. He had his eye on a classic VW. Tell us what your first impression was of the scope of the Barrett-Jackson collector car auction.
Well, it's definitely the largest collection of cars that I've ever been to. You're looking at 5 or 6 triple post circus tents that are outside. And then you probably have that much again inside where the really high-end stuff is. So this is kind of more of a car cruise-in type level of cars. And then inside the building, you have the World of Wheels Hot Rod Association high-end custom kind of cars inside. So you can see any car. It's unbelievable. Any car you can think of, there was probably at least one of them there. And a lot of people sell late model Cadillacs and Mercedes and BMWs. So the ones that are, 10 to 15 years old, but are still spotless and in pristine condition, the ones that take a little more money in maintenance, but have low numbers on the clock, low mileage, 60,000 miles, just any car you can think of. So if you take the biggest car show you've ever been to, and then you roll it into a fair, and then wrap that up in a concert, and then actually have an auction, that will give you some idea of what it's like. It's just an overwhelming, the senses are just overwhelmed on all levels. Sight, sound, smell, because you got everything from high octane fuels running to burnt rubber, there's
And that antique old car smell that you get, when you've got a
yeah.
car that's, 30, 40, 50 years old. That's what I like when I go to a car show. I want a car that's got that antique smell, and that it does. It satisfies all your senses, aside from taste. But you can feel the car when it rumbles going by you and see it, and it's just yeah, I totally get it. So your cousin was there. What was his name? Jeff?
No, his name's Sean.
Sean. I
Yeah,
don't know where I got Jeff,
that's
but
okay.
Sean was celebrating his 50th birthday. I know he didn't buy anything there, but did he actually get to bid on anything?
Oh, he had the option to bid on any car that he wanted. He had a bidder's number, and the first couple days we were able to sit up front a little closer. Those seats are reserved for predetermined bidders, so to speak. This is probably about the closest we got on the first couple days to the block. So, you can easily see the car.
Internet.
But again, this is kind of where I say the concert idea, because there's those big screens, not just to the left and right of the block, but when you go back to the concessions, there's screens that size. And to give you an idea, that screen is probably 20 feet wide and 10 feet tall.
Yeah.
So, and then when you go outside, there are two billboard size screens. And I mean, like a roadside billboard size screen with that same image up. And, you can be anywhere within this area and be bidding on a car. You could be phone bidding from out in the paddock, So,
and that's an interesting perspective that I had never considered, because the shot we're looking at right now, that's basically what you see on TV.
yes.
You see the block, you see the big screens, you see the VIP section of bidders, but you don't think about what is going on outside the building, and so that's kind of what I wanted to know about. When you're planning a trip, the auction kind of tends to be an afterthought with looking at everything that is on display throughout the compound.
Yeah, absolutely. The number one thing I would say, if anyone is planning on going, don't worry so much about where you stay. That's not the biggest issue. I mean, you want to be somewhat close. You don't have to be on top of it, So, but the thing you want to pay attention to, and it's hard to think about, but you are in a desert. You're in the desert. Scottsdale is absolutely beautiful. It's a wonderful place to visit. But you have to keep in mind that the minute the sun goes down, it goes from being 70, 80 degrees to being 40, 50 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like quickly, like if you start walking back to the car and the sun's out and then the sun goes away, by the time you get to the car, you're going to be shivering. I mean, within a half hour, it's cold. So you almost have to plan your day. This thing kind of runs from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. So if you get there in the morning, you want to have pants on because it's too cold to be in shorts. Mm-hmm. But come midday, you want to be in shorts and a short sleeve t-shirt. You don't want to be in a sweatshirt. But in the morning and in the evening, you want to be in a sweatshirt. And here's the bad part. Your car is a good half mile away.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a quick jaunt back to the car to grab your jacket. It's funny, you see a lot of golf carts running around, and it's the VIPs and so forth. They don't walk. It's too far. And just before we leave the block idea, I want to tell you that front section is not the VIP section. The VIPs are up in the mezzanines. So to our right, there was a mezzanine, and when the Mr. Hendricks was there bidding on his Corvette that he buys every year, the first edition of every year, the first one off that rolls through the assembly line. He was up there on the right in the custom seats with the high backs and waitresses that bring you drinks and food. And, that's where the VIPs are. And there's also, I forget what they call it, the hot rod section or
Oh yeah, the muscle lounge.
The muscle lounge, yeah. The muscle lounge is like directly behind you.
Hmm.
and it's the first mezzanine up, and that's where those guys sit. Now, I think those are kind of the old timers that have been there for years. They're part of the club, they're part of the scene,
Yeah.
and they get into that section and they get special treatment as well.
Yeah.
But that's cool.
But
That's what you get for investing your time.
exactly. And and when I said VIPs, I kind of think of when you would see a Rick Hendrick or Jeff Gordon or any one of these famous people that bids on cars. You usually see them down in front in that seating section. But yeah, you're right. There are VIP boxes. One of the famous collectors, John Staluppi from Florida, had his dog Dillinger. And Dillinger actually had a bidder pass when he'd bring the dog, and they would be up in that VIP mezzanine area there. So that was always a treat to see the dog yipping along as the bidding got a little more intense. So
Well, this is a well-oiled machine. Just as the cars are staged, everything is staged. So those VIPs will come and sit in the front row, like you said. They're not there to bid. They're there to be prepared to step up on the block, to be on camera, to say a
mhm.
few words about a car that maybe they're in on for a charity or something, or they donated the car or so forth. Um, but it's definitely a very well run thing. I mean, they don't miss a trick, and
Hmm.
they've been doing it for decades. So, I mean,
Yeah.
they should have all this down, but there is no doubt that it's well run.
Well, speaking of the block, I mean, did you get on the block, being that your cousin was a registered bidder?
Yeah, early in like the first like Thursday we were there, we followed a car up onto the block, and no one gave us any hassle at all. To go up on the block and look at the car. He was going to bid on the car, but the car quickly got away from him. And I will
Yeah.
tell you, it is the weirdest thing. It's cool to be up on the block, and it's if you want to get up there, you can get up there early in it. But obviously, as they get later in the evening and later in the weekend, when the big number cars are up there, they're not going to let you up there.
Yeah.
Unless you're one of the people that they know is certified to bid on that car. Of course, if you have a bidder pass, you're certified to bid on any car.
Hmm.
It's already been proven that you're capable of bidding on any car. So I would say that if you're up there, if you want to get up there early, unless you have multi-millions of dollars, in which case you can step up there whenever you want.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool to be up there for sure.
And tell me about any celebrity sightings. A lot of famous car people, sports, movie people go to this kind of event. Who did you see while you were there?
Well, by far for me, the biggest meet was Dave Kindig.
Yeah.
Dave Kindig was the nicest guy. I mean, he was so cool. He was so calm. He was so welcoming to a complete stranger, that it just floored me. It was funny because Kevin was right there with him, but Kevin was yakking with some guy. I don't know if he was a former customer or whatever. And Dave tried to pull him away just to get him to lean in there for a second for a picture with me. And, Kevin was too engrossed in what he was doing to get pulled away. And I said, "It's okay, Dave. I only need you. I don't need number two." And Dave just laughed and he just ate it up. But I will tell you, I am 6'1". Dave Kindig is every bit of 6 foot.
Yeah.
And I would have guessed Dave Kindig was 5'8", 5'6". I mean, Kevin's like 6'4". So, I mean, Kevin's a tall dude, but I thought Dave Kindig was a little guy. I would have never thought he was as tall as he is.
Well, especially as he's a bug guy. I mean, that's where he started out doing Volkswagens and stuff. And you can't be too big when you're getting inside those little cars.
Yeah, and we're standing in front of his bus, that the strange cutaway pickup bus that he built. It's very customized. Some weird number of doors it had that was very specific.
Hmm.
Um, and I will tell you that went up for sale on the block. And that's the amazing thing about Barrett-Jackson. So when you're there and you're there at the greatest car show you've probably ever been a part of, and you had asked me before, like, what kind of cars are there? It's like everything. Race cars. There was a custom painted Bugatti there. It was worth $2 million. The way, or 3 million, I don't even know. There was an entire collection of GT40s. And when I say an entire collection, I mean from the original GT40 from back in 67, 68, whatever it was, for every single year that they built them, when they started rebuilding them again, somebody had a collection of them there, and they all sold. They sold every single one of them. So, I mean, it's like whatever you can dream of, it's there. AC Cobras. There was an entire AC Cobra collection. I know you had asked if Sean bid on anything and what Sean was looking for to bid on, and he is a fan of Volkswagen Bugs. He has a 62, I think. I'm sure I'm wrong. It might be a 58, but it's a light blue Bug with a rack, and I'll tell you, it gets a lot of looks, but it's an original Bug. It's 40 horsepower, which, you and me own Camaros. 40 horsepower is what we add to our cars.
Yeah, exactly. That's one. That's a tenth of the horsepower that we have.
Right. That's an add-on for us. That's not the total. So, but he also grew up in Texas, so he is a fan of two-wheel drive, kind of lower pickups, short beds. Yeah. So he was looking maybe a late 70s pickup. There were tons of them. There's a group of guys that's all they build is short bed pickups, short bed Chevy and GMC pickups. They were all relatively the same, and he thought for sure, now that would be a late 50s, and also would be a higher custom model. These were more streetable kind of trucks, but, it was blowing me away, and it was blowing him away. He thought maybe he could buy one of these nicely done trucks for $20,000. No.
Yeah.
They were going for 35, 40, 45,000. They rolled one out that was a four-wheel drive. It went for $60,000. I was like, you got to be kidding me. It's a nice truck, but it is not $60,000. But these guys know what they're doing. These are all frame-off restorations. They're all well done. So everything that he had his eye on just went for way bigger money than he wanted to spend. So he was jumping around from a VW, which there were a lot of VWs there, but they were going for good money. Then he went to this pickup truck. Then he went to maybe I'll buy an 87 Buick Grand National. Okay, there were a couple Grand Nationals there. One was in pristine shape. The other one was somebody's, garage car that they had and they drove. And even the garage car went for $40,000. And he's like, I'll pay maybe 20 for it. It went past 20 like that,
Yeah.
No time at all. It was well past. So the minute he would think that, gone. Yeah. So it was well past anything he wanted. Now, I have to tell you, there were a couple things I was tempted to bid on. He was fine if I wanted to bid on his number. But the thing I was most tempted to bid on was Carroll Shelby's own AC Cobra.
Yeah.
And it was part of the collection that went, and there were these AC Cobras that were made. There was a copper one, a brass one, and I want to say it wasn't platinum, but it was chrome is the color it was. It might have been all aluminum, but polished to chrome. And they were impressive. They were selling for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $100,000.
Yeah.
So now they bring up Carroll Shelby's own personal driven everyday AC Cobra. There was just a regular AC Cobra, which, if you can even say that, feels like blasphemy saying a regular AC Cobra.
Yeah, but not the fat fender 427 side oiler, a little 289, with the skinny tires, right?
Oh no, this was the big wide wheeled.
Oh, it was?
This wasn't an original first year. This was
this CSX.
Yeah.
Continuation cars. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but it had the big wheels and the big fenders. But this was Carroll Shelby's car that he drove home every night, And I'm thinking this car's going to sell for maybe $1 million. No, 200,000.
Wow.
So with the bidder's premium, you're talking $220,000. I really wanted to raise my hand, and you know me, I don't
Yeah.
have $220,000, but I'm thinking you could buy this car and take it up to the next Barrett-Jackson, which I think was planned for Connecticut that year.
Yeah, that would have been.
And they don't see cars like that in Connecticut. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you could probably flip this car to, double that money, in a couple months. It wasn't something I could pull the trigger on. I figured that would be an instant divorce. We all know that feeling. What?
And I know your wife, so yeah, I could probably vouch for that.
So I would have liked to have bid on that. And there was a couple other cars that as I was walking around, I was like, this would be a good investment to buy and put in the garage. I've recently gotten involved with Tesla and SpaceX and following Elon Musk. Well, sitting there was one of the original Tesla Roadsters.
Yeah.
And, it was a Lotus that they transformed into a battery-driven car. And, I said to a couple of people were kind of looking at it, but they weren't sure what it was. And I said, this would be a good investment. I said, you could probably pick this up for $40,000, and hang on to it for a couple of years. And someday it might be worth $1 million.
Yeah.
You never know where Tesla's going to go or end up. And this is one of the original cars that launched Tesla. And unfortunately, it was slated for a future auction. So it wasn't slated to be sold there. Or fortunately, for my case, because again, a $40,000 Tesla, that might just be a static model. Might not even be drivable. Probably wouldn't have been a good thing to drive home or have shipped home. So probably saved myself more grief than it would have been worth. But thankfully, it wasn't available there. But that was a couple of the cars. And of course, there's always dream cars that have been in your life. That was a dream car. And the one dream car that I had originally that I did not see there was a Lotus Esprit Turbo.
Huh.
And I don't think there was one there because I would have been really tempted to bid on that. Like 87, which was the year I graduated high school. It was an unbelievable car back then.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But,
well, when it comes to, the experience of Barrett-Jackson, you were talking about, you don't need to stay on top of the place. Where did you stay? How far was your hotel? And what was it like getting back and forth?
We stayed in a hotel that was probably a 25 or 30-minute drive back and forth, which was perfectly fine because what it allowed you to do is it gave you a place to stop and grab, fast food, either coming or going. If you just wanted a fast food breakfast or a cup of coffee and a donut or something, you could grab it on the way. And it gave you a chance to kind of settle into your day before you got onto the pavement, So it was good. It was good downtime. I will tell you, it was kind of fun because, again, this was my cousin's bucket list thing. So they got the hotel, but I got the rental car. And I told him, I said, this is kind of your deal. I don't really care what we get. So we ended up with a Jaguar SUV. I don't know what the model is, but it was
F-Pace, I think it is.
Yeah, something like that, an I-Pace, Jaguar, four-door Jaguar SUV. So it felt like we had a little bit of status, but we weren't being too showy,
Yeah.
Probably the first morning we went, we were behind a Ferrari in line to get in, and it was, how Ferraris sound, even at idle, and then they rev it up a little bit to pull away, and it's an amazing sound. So it was interesting, but you really do have to pay attention in traffic coming and going because it's like 5 or 6 lanes wide, and they really don't pay too much attention to the exit signs. So they'll come from the 4th or 5th lane on the left and go all the way across to the exit. And it's kind of, you really do. Not only while you're getting close to the exit you want, do you want to move over and kind of get in the queue, but you also want to pay attention to behind you as to whether or not people are paying attention to the fact that you're slowing from 70 to maybe 30.
Yeah.
It's a little scary. You have to pay attention. As a passenger, I would pay attention to my mirror on my side and let Sean pay attention to the rear view mirror and the other side view mirror. But we would, take turns driving. Normally, whoever drove in the morning would be the passenger on the way home.
Yeah.
So, and normally on the way home, it was dark and there wasn't any traffic on the road. But in the morning, you had rush hour traffic, even though it was, probably 9 o'clock when you were heading in, there was still some traffic on the road.
Yeah.
So, but again, it was good that we weren't right there, because that gave you a chance to leave and go to a restaurant on your way back to the hotel and get dinner or something. So
that kind of leads me into my next question. What did you eat when you were out there?
I kind of leaned towards the barbecue. There was a lot of good barbecue, but don't be afraid to eat there. And if you're a vegetarian, there was lots of vegetarian choices. There was lots of there is fair food, but like they didn't have like fried sticks of butter. It wasn't that kind of fair food. It was the kind of regular fair food. Like they had hamburgers, hot dogs, that kind of stuff, corn dogs. But you could also get a good steak sandwich. You could get really anything you wanted. My cousin had a noodle bowl one time, a vegetable noodle bowl. It smelled great, like a teriyaki noodle bowl.
Yeah.
And he was looking for something a little lighter. It, like I said, it smelled good. I think it had chicken in it, teriyaki chicken in it. It made my mouth water, and I was, like I said, I was having barbecue. It was delicious. But there's lots of good food around too. I mean, but while you're there, you don't want to leave the facility.
Yeah.
During the midday to go out and get something to eat. There's lots of good choices. The other thing I want to recommend, I kind of skipped over this when I was talking about being prepared for being in the desert. You really want to be prepared with your footwear because you're going to be walking 6 miles a day, if not 10. Like I said, just to get back to the car, it's about a half-mile walk. So you have a half-mile walk in, half-mile walk out. And you kind of asked about celebrity sightings, and I think we got off track, but we're walking in one day, and just so happens we're walking along with the sidekick. I think his name's Wayne from Boyd Coddington. He was kind of Boyd Coddington. We have a picture up of Wayne Carini, or as I call him, the Mad Elf. He has pointed ears.
Yeah, Wayne Carini, another car celebrity. That you see either at Barrett-Jackson or around it, but from chasing classic cars, and that's another great meet that you got there.
Yeah, but that was a picture of Wayne with his I think it's 32 or 34 Roadster, and it's an amazing car, and he sold it.
Yeah,
it sold. So. But that's the kind of stuff you can see there. Stuff that you've seen on shows, you can see right there. So we're walking in one morning, and there's Wayne from Boyd Coddington's garage. I think his name's Wayne. I could be wrong. And we're walking along, and I'm okay with celebrity. I don't really want to bother him very much. I asked politely to have a picture with Wayne, and I actually did it because my wife finds him annoying. And I don't like that guy. He seems arrogant, and I'm like, he is arrogant because he's put a lot of years into what he does, and he knows what he's doing, and he's earned the right to be a little arrogant because he has the skills. You're not going to tell him what's right and what's wrong in the car world, collector car world, because he's one of the prime authorities on it. So, but anyways, this guy Wayne was walking in, and I just said hi to him, and I kind of pointed over to him as my cousin walked by, and my cousin said, "Hey, aren't you kind of like famous? And, and he laughed a little bit and he said, yeah, used to be, when the show was on. If you
Yeah.
don't know, the show was American Hot Rod. It was on Discovery. And he was the shop foreman for Boyd Coddington. And, kind of made sure that the cars got in and out. And if you know anything about Boyd, he was a tough guy to work for. So I'm sure this guy had a lot of hard days. So he was still, and then we kind of talked to him a little bit, and we said, well, are you buying or selling? He said a little bit of both. He said, I got a couple cars that are for sale that I'm shepherding through, and there's a couple things I'm looking at maybe picking up, So, and that was it. We just walked in together and kept walking,
Sounds similar to my Dave Kindig experience in Vegas in the fall of 2019. I happened to be in Vegas during the SEMA show, and we were staying at the Wynn Encore complex, which is, you can see the convention center where it was right across the way. And I saw the guys, looked like they were getting ready to go figure out where they were going to go to dinner. And I just grabbed Dave and I said, hey, I don't mean to interrupt you. I just want to shake your hand and tell you how much I enjoy Bitch and Rides and what you do and the creative things you do with cars. And I just wanted to say hello. Didn't even bother him for a selfie. But I had snapped a surreptitious photo of him and Kev Dog and the rest of the guys, like kind of standing there at the registration, getting ready to go their separate ways. So, but yeah, something about, I think because of our Western Pennsylvania roots, we kind of look at celebrities and are like, you see like a athlete out, one of the Pirates or Penguins or Steelers or whatever, you acknowledge their presence. Oh, hey, how you doing? And you let them get on their way.
Yeah, and I think it does go back to the Steeler greats from, winning 4 championships in a row. There was kind of this air in Pittsburgh of just be happy you're in the presence of greatness.
Yeah.
You don't need to go be on top of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I don't know, a lot of people look at sports people and say greatness, or someone that has celebrity and say greatness. But I will tell you, I was floored by Dave Kindig. I mean, he was just so polite and so open. Now, granted, he's there doing that, but he was just so open and welcoming, And, I said, man, just beautiful work. Thanks a lot. It's great watching Bitch and Rides and seeing the creative things you do, like you said, but I didn't need more than 30 seconds of the man's time. And I did my best to wait patiently to get a picture with him. And he knew that, while we were standing there, 5 people took pictures with him, So I took my turn and I got out of the way. But yeah, I do think you're right. It is kind of something like, we understand celebrity, but we also understand their people, and they deserve their right to have their space.
Yeah. Well, and car guys too, as my t-shirt will attest, personal advisory, we'll talk about cars for hours. My wife told me I needed a warning label, so I made my own. Available at carshowlife.net if you're so interested. So
that is absolutely ideal.
We're getting off track here. I do have a couple more questions for you about this whole Barrett-Jackson experience. And one of them is that, obviously somebody like you or me probably not going to buy a car at Barrett-Jackson, but what else can you buy without spending tens of thousands of dollars? What's the vendor situation like there?
Oh, well, first of all, you could buy a car there. I could buy a car there without a doubt.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're not
the car there. You want might go shooting off out of your range.
A high-end classic car or a show car or something. But yes, there were memorabilia auctions. So you could buy all kind of stuff, almost anything you could think of. They had those quarter rides that you rode out in front of the Kmart when you were selling those. And, all kind of stuff, barber poles and, bow tie signs, Chevy bow tie signs, and, and then, of course, all kind of hats and shirts and, anything you could throw a Barrett-Jackson logo on, cups and, but there were also fun experiences. Like my cousin and I raced demons. Dodge Demons, and they
Yeah.
literally put you in the car, and the cars are sitting side by side, and you're in a virtual drag race. And when I say a virtual drag race, this whole car lifts up because the car lifts the wheels off the ground through the first two gears. The guy kind of told me as we were getting in these cars, you have to shift from first to second while the car's still up in the air. So I knew, and by the way, they're just paddle shifters.
Yeah, yeah.
Just paddle shifting. It's not, you don't have a gear lever, So I knew when that hood came up and you're looking at nothing but hood and sky, you got to shift to second. So I beat my cousin every time just because I had that little insider knowledge. And I said to him, did they tell you to shift when while you're up in the air? And he said, no. I'm like, that's why you had no chance. But to do that, you had to give them your email address, and they gave you a Dodge. I don't know what the fender stripes are called, but
the hash mark thing.
Hash marks on the fenders. That's what it had. Dodge on the shirt, and it had the hash marks. And you got a free T-shirt. I mean, how can you complain?
Yeah.
They give you a free T-shirt and entertain you with this amazing thing, and so when you come into the parking lot and park, the next thing you see are two racetracks. And when I say racetracks, I don't mean like a full-blown like Laguna Seca.
Yeah.
I mean like what you would see at a road cross course.
Autocross.
Autocross, roughly that size. Okay, so on one side, Chevy had a ride-along that you could either ride along in the new Tahoe or you could ride along in the new ZL1 Camaro. ZL1. Well, really? You want to ride along in a Tahoe? They had the new Cadillac. It was the new whatever hottest Cadillac was. And that was beautiful. It was just nice to see it because they weren't available to see anywhere yet. They weren't out at dealers. But they were throwing the ZL1s around like they were nothing. And I mean, sideways. The only thing was, it was just like a square. You went around three turns and you were back. I mean, the car could barely even get up to speed. So on the opposite side of that, Toyota and Dodge had a drifting demonstration. And the funniest thing was to see how high the pile of marbles were. And if marbles are the rubber pieces that come off the tires when they're spinning at race speeds. And literally every day that pile went up. I'm telling you, at least a foot. They had a sweeper that would run around that at night and sweep up all the marbles. And so they had Hellcats and Challenger Hellcats and Toyota Supras running this loop
neat.
And I mean, like I said, it's like a carnival. Well, they had rides. No, they didn't have the tilt-a-whirl and all that stuff, but you could definitely get in something and get thrown around and maybe feel like you're going to throw up.
I think I'd take a ride in a Hellcat or a Supra instead of the tilt-a-whirl, that's for sure.
Yeah, the line was a little long, but if you had someone that wasn't there looking to get into a car or looking for a particular car or just like us, amazed by all the cars, there was stuff that could eat up their time. Traxxas had a setup where the RC cars were doing stunts and stuff. And I didn't realize it, but you can take a Traxxas car and when it's in midair, you can make it turn and tilt and pitch and yaw by controlling the wheels.
Yeah.
And so they had a setup where they were running from ramp to ramp and jumping, and they could make them flip in the air. And I mean, these guys were like really talented with an RC car. I had a lot of RC cars growing up. I never considered doing any of those kind of things with them. And of course, you could spend $1,000 on one of those cars, easy.
As I very well know, because that was my car show last summer was spent. I discovered a local motorsports facility here, Fairfield Motorsports, which sells motorcycles and ATVs, UTVs, those type of things. But they also sell Traxxas. And when I discovered that, that became my new funhouse in a car showless summer, at least, April, May, June, when we didn't have car shows here in North Central PA. So, yeah, I got some Traxxas stuff in the basement.
It's a
So,
lot of fun. It's a lot
yeah,
of fun.
hell of a lot of fun. Well,
Just watching
now that
do that was crazy.
now that you've been there, would you do it again?
Um, I would do it again if somebody else wanted to go. Would I do it for me? Probably not.
Okay.
I don't need to go again. I've seen the puppet show and know where the strings are, so to speak. But it's a great show. I mean, if you said to me, "Hey, Eric, do you want to go?" Yeah, I'd go with you. You know, but I will tell you that the one thing that really I disappointed myself. Um, I was right there at TPC Scottsdale Golf Course, and we did go over and had brunch. My cousin was cool enough. He's not a golfer. He doesn't care about golf, but we went over and we had brunch, and I got to see the stadium hole. Which if you've ever seen it during a golf event is unbelievable. And I didn't really know, and I knew because he wasn't a golfer. I didn't really look into it, but I could have played TPC Scottsdale. And there is no doubt in my mind that I missed an opportunity there. I would have played TPC Scottsdale. So if I went with someone like my brother that plays golf, we would probably take a day and go play TPC and then, maybe go over in the evening. But, unless you really do want to buy a car, I probably wouldn't go. And you can buy a car from home. You don't have to be
Yeah,
there.
that's true too.
You can bid online. And like things that you would be like, well, I'll tell you one car I looked at that I thought this is going to be a steal. I could steal this car. There was a factory 5 race car that I don't know, kind of like a Porsche race car, that kind of like swoopy, low but swoopy. And I thought, hell, just for the engine in this car, and you'll know the engine, it had an LS9 in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that engine's worth $50,000. There's no way this car's selling for $50,000. It had bird crap all over it. No one was paying attention to this car. They weren't wiping it down or cleaning it up. The tires were worn. They were low on air. It had kind of semi gull wing doors, but not really. Like used gull wing doors, but not like. I'm like, this is a cool car. I just kind of like to have the engine. Drop that in my Camaro and jump up another couple hundred horsepower. That car sold for $80-some thousand. Now I'm sure, but looking at that car, I was like, this car's going to sell for maybe 30, maybe, And then, of course, they had a whole factory 5 setup there. You could buy a brand new factory 5 AC Cobra, built the way you wanted, and drive it home. They had 10 of them, 12 of them, different colors, different setups, just unbelievable. Now, I would have loved to have had one of those. AC Cobras are an original dream car, but, that's why the Carroll Shelby one was so attractive. Yeah,
well, dude,
it's scary.
Thank you for sharing your experience with us. I'm salivating for an opportunity to get out of the house. I desperately want to attend, whether it's Barrett-Jackson or it's Mecum, which comes to Harrisburg every year, or it's the little North Central PA auto auction we have out near Lock Haven. Classic car auction usually happens July, August. So, I'm just dying to get out because it's just been such a rough year. So I'm hoping at some point I get to see you in person in 2021 and maybe at Camaro Nationals this June in Frederick, Maryland. So we'll see.
That's a possibility, definitely. I mean, car shows have been something lacking in all of our diets. We definitely need to get out, see our car show buddies, and, as you say, back in and put the hood up and have
Yeah.
a good time.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being with us, my friend. Take care.
Thank you. See ya.
Well, that brings us to our next episode, which will feature one of the organizers of the Camaro Nationals, Carl Sheffy, who is part of the Lehigh Valley Camaro Club, will join us here on Car Show Life and talk about the event coming up in June of this year down in Frederick, Maryland. In the meantime, you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Car Show Life, back in, hood up. You can also email me directly at info@carshowlife.net. And you can always leave a comment here at NorthcentralPA.com. Thanks to my friend Eric McFarland. A big thank you to Freebie Freer and her production assistants and everyone at North Central PA Media. I'm Drake Donovan. Go out and live that car show life. Back in, hood up. We'll see you next time.